Okay, I guess we're going to get started. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our information webinar on our certificate in user experience design. And we're going to get started right away. We've got half an hour to spend together, and then we'd love to take your questions at the end. So today's presenters, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Marina, and I'm the program manager for this program. And I work in continuing professional education at York University. And the UX program is one of many programs in my portfolio. And I'm just very happy to present to you Rahim. He's one of our instructors. So Rahim, if you could kindly introduce yourself, say hi.
Hi, my name is Rahim. I'm a senior product designer at a company called Vericent. I'll tell you more about my story in a bit. And I've been teaching, I guess it's been over 2 years now since the beginning of the pandemic. So excited to share more about the program with you guys.
Okay, so let's move on with the presentation. In terms of an agenda, today I'm going to tell you a little bit about the School of Continuing Studies in York University, why choose York, what the T-shaped professional is, and then I'm going to hand it over to Rahim. He's going to talk to you about UX design, what it is, what are some of the job projections, what does the landscape look like right now in terms of jobs. He'll give you a special presentation, and then he'll turn it back over to me, where I'll talk about the learning format, the schedule, how to register for the program, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end. Okay, so in terms of York University, I'm not sure if any of you know a lot about York. I'm sure you've heard of York. It is it is actually the third largest university in Canada. So I'm sure that you've heard of York, but for those that don't know much about it, we do have a School of Continuing Studies, which is where we work, and it was founded in 2015. And it was founded really on designing really cutting edge programs like our UX program. And in fact, Rahim will talk to you a little bit more about the program and how cutting edge it is. But in general, York University, we've got 7,000 faculty and staff, we've got 53,000 students and 12,000 international students that come from 178 different countries. Our school, the School of Continuing Studies, is located on the Keele campus of York University here in Toronto. Now, in terms of what are the features, benefits, and advantages of our program, the first feature is that it's offered in a blended and condensed delivery format. So that provides lots of flexibility for people that are working part-time. Now, what the blended and condensed delivery format means is that there are times on the weekend in each course, there are times where you're going to meet with the class and with your instructor in a live online fashion. And then in between, you're going to be working asynchronously on the curriculum, and you will still be connecting with peers as well as with the instructor, because this is not like a self-directed course, it's actually instructor-led. But that's going to be done asynchronously, and we developed the program that way because we wanted to be able for our students to be able to balance their priorities, and also we've condensed it so that they can actually finish it faster. So our program from start to finish, all 4 courses, is 8 months long, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later in one of my slides after Rahim does his presentation. The second feature is that we are a cohort. So very different from the way it's offered at other institutions, but you're going to be progressing through the program with the same group of people. That means that you can build a lot more connections with the students because you're going to be together for all 4 courses. You're going to get stability in scheduling, and really what that means is that every single course is guaranteed to run, so you don't have to register for 4 independent courses. You're registering for the entire program, and you can guarantee that there's going to be a flow between the courses. Okay. The third feature is that you're going to build a portfolio, and this is probably the most exciting feature, I think, of this program. You're going to be working with a real client. Rahim is going to talk more about it and give you a little bit more information on that. But here, you're going to be able to showcase new skills that you can use in a job interview. So stay tuned for a little bit more information on that. And the last is that our industry experts, our instructors are industry experts. So Rahim is not a typical faculty member working in academia. He's actually working as as a UX practitioner, specialist, every single day, so he can bring lots of examples to the classroom, real world, real work examples. Okay, and really the benefit of that is that we're constantly updating our curriculum, ensuring that it's relevant, and that only is advantageous to you, the student. Now, in terms of the T-shaped professional, what is the T-shaped professional? For those that don't know what it is someone that has deep knowledge and skills in one area, but also has a broad base of supporting soft skills. So the T here shows you the core skills to do the job. In this case, it is, the technical skills in UX. This is what we're going to be teaching you. But not only are we going to be teaching you the technical skills, we've incorporated into the curriculum really critical cross-functional skills such as critical thinking, oral and written communication, presentation skills, critiquing, problem solving, empathy, really important cross-functional skills that you're really going to need in order to succeed in your career. So we've built all of that into the program. And you're going to be able to practice a lot of those cross-functional skills in addition to the core skills to actually do the job. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Rahim, and he's going to take the next few slides.
Alrighty, thank you. Okay, so what is UX design? I'm assuming if you're here, you probably have a inkling of what that is. So UX design is essentially, if you think about everything we use from our laptops to our phones to a kiosk, everything that has visually and the experience of the application or the platform has been touched by a UX designer. And a UX designer's goal is to make sure that experience is well thought out, as well as thinking about the visual design part of it too, in terms of making sure it's a good experience. So if you think about, applications from like 10 years ago versus now, you can see the evolution of UX design in terms of just the details and the nuances that have come into form. Next slide. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so the job market. So in terms of over the last decade, the UX industry has definitely grown quite a bit, because if you think about, when it comes down to the pandemic, just in terms of the evolution of the government websites and platforms that they have to invest in, websites, applications, I would say every company needs some sort of form of UX designers, UX engineers, or visual designers to make sure that, their appearance of their application or website is, is ready for the market, is well received in the market. So in terms of the growth of the job market for UX, if you think about augmented reality, VR, the metaverse, all these things that are happening in the world, and in the future, a lot of these things will need UX designers. So there's no shortage of jobs, in my honest opinion, when it comes to UX. Next slide, please. All right, so I'll be talking to you about my journey with design, the structure of the program, and then a little a recap of the final course that I teach, as well as a case study of the students. Next slide, please. So in terms of my journey, so I started as a designer ages ago. Ever since I was a kid, I was always creative. Started my journey at Carleton University for industrial design, which is physical product design. And then I realized through a couple of experiences that personally speaking, designers didn't know anything about business. So I moved to San Francisco to pursue an MBA in design strategy. So I lived in San Francisco for about 6 years. So my experience with design has been all over the map. I've done furniture design, worked at Samsung's Innovation Lab, and then I transitioned my career more into the UX world just because there was more opportunities at the time. And it's just there's just more flexibility in that industry too, and it's very prospering. Next slide, please. So in terms of the process, so this is something that's embedded into my course. So just in terms of the design process, which I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with, what I typically like to do is question the problem and then conduct research, and I'll talk more about the research part within my course. Then you find patterns, you make connections, then you design, create, test, prototype, and then you produce it. And it's a fictitious cycle that goes over and over again. Next slide, please. So like I said, my I started my career as an industrial designer at Carleton, and then I moved to San Francisco to pursue an MBA in design strategy in San Francisco. Next slide. In terms of my experiences, like I mentioned briefly, it's been very diverse. So I started my career as an industrial designer, worked at Umbra, California Innovations, designing soft goods, and then Technion. And then while I moved to San Francisco, that's where I was exposed to the world of UX and design strategy and design research. And I was grateful to intern at Fuse Project, which is a really well-known industrial design branding design firm led by Yves Behar. I had my own startup, which unfortunately failed, but it was a great learning experience. And then I worked at SAMHSA's Innovation Lab, and that's when I started pivoting my career more into UX design and UX strategy. And then I moved back to Toronto at the end of 2017 and worked at an AI startup. I did some consulting, and now I work at a company called Verisant as a senior product designer. So I've dabbled between design manager, and to be completely transparent, I actually missed designing, so now I'm back to designing again. Next slide, please. So in terms of the program structure, so there are 4 courses in this program. So the first one is taught by Carmen. It's more of the fundamentals of UX design. So it's basically showing you how to get your feet wet. You're going to be exposed to all the various facets of UX design. The second course is focused on UX research, which is really, really important because it essentially tells you in terms of as UX designers, you really need to understand the problem before you start executing and designing. So that course really focuses on understanding the problem and conducting the right type of research. And then the final, course 3 is visual design, wireframing, and prototyping. So this is more about the execution, focusing more on the hands-on skills. So I'd say the first 2 courses are more on the analytical side of just kind of understanding the nuances of UX design. And then the third and fourth course are way more hands-on. So it's a good balance between the left side and the right side of your brain. And then my course, so when I was in design school, I realized that, you do all these fictitious projects and then you try getting a job and sometimes it just doesn't add up. So what I realized that we needed to do was make sure we have the students work with real clients. So I do some hunting, find some clients. We got 8 clients right now for a course that I'm going to start teaching on Sunday. So I do my due diligence. I make sure these clients are applicable to where the students' skill sets are. And it's just a really refreshing experience for them to actually work with a real client and just get that experience in terms of helping them with their needs and pain points. Next slide, please. Alrighty, so why is the applied UX design course unique? So in terms of, like I mentioned, I engage with real clients. So that number has to be updated. I think we're at like 44 now. So the way it works is, like I said, I find real clients. So when we have that first kickoff class with the students, they get drafted into various teams. I try to get them to understand what their strengths are because UX is a very intricate field in terms of understanding your specialty. So what I mean by that is, there could be people that focus on just visual design. There could be people that focus on design research. There could be people that, love prototyping, right? So you'll get exposed to all these different facets. And then when you come to me, my goal is to make sure that you're job ready. So have the students kind of self-assess themselves in terms of like what part of the design process, UX design process they prefer, and then they get put into teams based on, I want to make sure all the teams are balanced. So there is someone that's strong at visual design, someone that prefers prototyping, someone that prefers research. So it's a really well-rounded team. So then they get formed into teams, then they choose the clients. So the first thing that happens is they have a kickoff call. So this is scheduled with the clients. And what happens is the client will brief them on their problem, what they're trying to do, whether it's an application or whether it's a website that they need to redesign. And then they create a design brief. So what a design brief is, it's essentially a scope document that helps the client and the students understand what they're going to be doing in the next 7 weeks. So everything in terms of the schedule, the pain points, the research plan, all of that is conducted and then signed off on. So both parties are on board. And then following, so design research as a designer is really important. They spend 2 weeks doing their due diligence on the clients, just really understanding the entire industry of where that client falls in. They do competitive analysis. They do a heuristic analysis, which is understanding their current website and just dissecting it. They do user interviews, which is really important to talk to actual stakeholders to really understand what the pain points are. And then, like I said, my background is in design and business. So I have the students conduct an exercise called a business model canvas. And this is what is them understanding the business of the client. And why I find this really important is that as a designer, you're probably assuming that all you're going to be doing is designing, but I really want to teach them that you guys have the autonomy to make business decisions as well, because you have a creative lens that could really impact the value of a business. So they do that, and then I have the client also do the business model canvas, and then they compare and contrast. And then following that, at the same time, they also do low fidelity wireframes by sketches. And then finally, in week 5, they present 3 distinctively different visual design concepts for the app or the website. And that's when they're going to get feedback. So every single week, these students are presenting to their clients on a 1-hour call. So it's very interactive, it's very live, everything moves really quickly, but at the end of it, you get a live result, which is exciting. Week 6, they create a working prototype. And then they do user testing just to validate the decisions that they've made or any changes that have to be made. And then week 7, everyone hops on to Zoom again at the end on whether it's a Saturday or Sunday. The client hops on for a 30-minute time slot, and the students present their entire journey. And why this is important is it's important for them to reflect on what they've done because they're moving so quickly. But at the same time, it's also important for the students to reflect on the other teams that the other teams and their journey with their client, because every client's different and they would have to do different things. So it's a really good learning experience for them to see and learn from each other. Next slide, please. So just a couple of examples of client projects. So this was actually during the pandemic. So there's an Afghan family that opened up a kebab restaurant. And unfortunately, obviously, they were hit by the pandemic. But what was really interesting was that utilizing the business model canvas, what happened was the students ended up designing a website on Shopify for them. So not only is it a restaurant, but they're also selling their sauces, which they're known for, on their website. So anyone can order the sauces online. So that's an additional revenue stream that was thought through, which obviously adds more money to their bottom line. Next slide. So this was actually a good friend of mine. He's based in the UK. He's a really famous Islamic geometry artist. Before the pandemic, what he would do is, because he has a really massive following, he would fly to various Islamic-inspired regions like Spain, Morocco, Dubai, and he would host these classes, and they would do drawings based on the patterns within that region. But obviously, the pandemic prevented him from traveling, so he ended up hosting these sessions on Zoom. Now, his website wasn't really up to par, so the students ended up creating his website also on Shopify, and he's been doing really well. He should be coming to Toronto for a lecture and a session, so I'm excited about that. Next slide, please. In the summertime. And then the last example was a really well-known architect. So he actually created this, it's a mosque in Central Asia, in Korog, Tajikistan. And what's really unique about this guy is he's like in his 70s. His daughter is a good friend of mine, and he's really, really good at what he does. But the issue was that his website was outdated. So mostly all his clients were found through word of mouth. And to be completely frank, he was quite embarrassed about his website. So the students took a stab at his website, and what was really unique, once again, in this situation this was during the pandemic as well. And there's people always like knocking on his door, sending him emails, asking him for like, what do you think of this for my kitchen renovation, or what do you think of this for my basement, or whatever it is. So what we ended up doing is, and the challenge with architects is that they do get paid, but when they get paid, it's like a lump sum at the end of a project or in the middle or at some point. So in terms of revenue, what we thought about was, why not add consulting hours, right? So like pay him like $100, $150 for an hour of his time, hop on Zoom, ask him any question you want regarding your renovation, and there's an additional revenue stream for his business, as well as considering down the road selling furniture pieces that they have designed for other clients. Next slide, please. So all these websites are live and the students worked on them. So yeah, Marina, do you want to take over this slide?
Yeah, these are just some of the instructors that are in the program. We just wanted just to give prospective students an idea of where they were working. So from companies like Shopify, Variascent, like where Rahim is, Maple, Kijiji, again, Shopify and Maripost. And we're actually in a recruitment, we're recruiting some other new instructors as well that are going to be rotating through. So lots of experience from lots of different industries for sure. Yeah, so if you'd like to take this one, Rahim, because you're seeing this as the instructor, you're seeing this firsthand, like as to who's actually in the program. So can you speak to this?
Yeah, absolutely. So who should be taking this program? So there's a wide, diverse amount of people that come through this program. So whether it's graphic designers, web developers, product managers, strategists, consultants, everyone has their point of view for taking the program, right? So if you're a project manager, you want to really understand what the UX world is all about, especially if you're communicating with the UX designer. Web developers might want to, edge up their UX skills. Graphic designers probably want to transition more into UX because there are more jobs available. So it really depends on what your background is, but it's valuable to everyone that sees value in the world of UX.
Okay, I think I can take the other slides.
Sure.
So in terms of the program structure, the program, as I mentioned, is part-time online blended. That means that there's a blend of asynchronous and live online classes. Again, very important to balance professional and personal commitments because people can, the majority of our students are working full-time, and we designed the program around a full-time audience, like somebody who is actually working full-time. You can complete the entire program from start to finish in 8 months. You can log in, you can study, participate in discussions in your online course forum, you can submit your work, you can, talk to your instructor, log off when you need to in the asynchronous parts of it, but there are 8 required live online sessions. They're held either on a Saturday or a Sunday, and some instructors actually have other live touch points as well. So like office hours and stuff like that. But in terms of required and mandatory for participation and attendance, you would be required to be online either a full day, like either a Saturday, Sunday, 2 full days per course. Okay, so that's 8 in total. In terms of additional opportunities that we offer our students, there is, some of our instructors have panel discussions. They invite people in as guest speakers. There will be an opportunity for you to network and mentor with people that are in the industry, because all of our students actually get access to 10,000 coffees. And what 10,000 coffees is that it makes data-driven connections between colleagues over virtual coffee chats, right? So this is a partnership that we have with RBC. Students can sign up, and then AI matches you with an industry professional to connect with. And from what I have heard of people that have used it, they love 10,000 coffees. In addition, there is an entrepreneurship initiative that is available once students graduate from the program. It's a 6-month program. It's open to all School of Continuing Studies students, and it's for people who actually want to explore the world of entrepreneurship. So if you have an idea, if you want to make, you have a great idea for a great business venture, you want to turn that idea into a reality, well, then, you can turn to Innovations York, the internship initiative. It is post program, and there is an additional cost. I believe it's about $1,200 for 6 months, and they give you mentorship coaching, entrepreneurship training. There's lots of resources and lots of support that they can give you to get your business idea off the ground. In terms of registration, our summer program begins in May. It begins on Saturday, May the 7th. The full schedule is available on our website. You can go to continue.yorku.ca. Our program fee, that includes all 4 courses, is $43.96 in total. If you are a York University alumni, you would get a 10% discount, so you would have to call our registration team for the discount code. And this is how you can contact us. So again, our website, continue.yorku.ca. We have a dedicated continuing studies advisor. His name is Mike. And if you email him at continue@yorku.ca, you can ask him any questions about the program. You can contact our reg team, our registration team. And we are open 8:30 to 4:30, Monday to Friday. We have online and telephone advising appointments available. So you don't have to come into the campus in person. Everything can be done online. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the presentation, and now we would be happy to take questions. And Rahim, I actually have a question already that's in the question box, and it's I'm interested in accessibility as it applies to people with various disabilities as well as older adults and aging. Is there coursework specific to this area as well as opportunities for the final project in this?
So in terms of when the students, I can't speak for the other courses, but in my course, accessibility in terms of UX accessibility is something that is important when people are navigating through a website and stuff like that. In terms of clients, I'm trying to think. I do look for nonprofits in terms of clients, but in terms of can you rephrase your question? Is it more about accessibility within? I can't read the questions, by the way, Marina.
Yeah.
Is it more around clients that would be pertinent to accessibility, or is it the person and their needs?
Yeah, I think maybe here we go. I had let me see if more in the social services area. So for example, I think that what she's asking is will there be an opportunity to do projects geared to the social services area that, you know,
Yeah,
deal with
absolutely.
accessibility and so forth? And I know that Ripen, you know, you can select you know, you can select those organizations, am I right?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends term to term, because sometimes, we'll have a client that might fit that wheelhouse. Sometimes we don't, so it really varies. But I try to have a really diverse group of clients. We've had nonprofits in the past. We've had, I'm just trying to, I mean, let me just go through the Rolodex, but we've had multiple, give me a second, let's pull it up. Various different unique clients across the last 2 years. Bear with me. Let me just dig through this. I just can't think of anything from the top of my head. But yeah, we'll come back. We'll come back to this. Give me a second.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'll go to the next question.
Sure.
I have a question. I had my web design training back in '99, and I worked for a couple of years with this profession. Then I made a few career changes, so now I'm a bit nervous about getting back to the profession, to a profession that requires web design background.
We had someone, ironically, also, I guess this was in the summertime, someone that took a graphic design course program in 1999. It really depends on what your goals are, right? So if your goals are to find a job in the industry, it's to be a project manager. Really depends on what your goals are, and do you want to go back into designing? Obviously, design is something that you're always going to be continuously learning. You just have to put the time in it, right? So to answer your question, I wouldn't say there's any challenges with that. It's just how motivated are you, and what are your goals for what you want to do after the program, if that answers your question.
Okay, and I have another question about, I noticed some job ads for UX design requesting programming experience. Is this really necessary?
I would say no, because I cannot program for the life of me, and I choose not to because that's not my core competency. So it really varies, right? So some organizations, if it's a small organization, they don't want to hire hire an independent developer. They just want to hire one person to do everything. That's totally cool. But mostly, I would say probably 75% of the industry, I mean, it's just added bonus, right? If you can code, fantastic. But I mean, we have developers on my team at work that do the coding. Our job is not to code, right? Our job is to focus on the user experience, talk to customers, and get validation on the product, and less about the coding. So it really varies organization to organization. But to answer your question candidly, I would say no.
Okay, now I can answer this question. Do we need to buy any software, particular software? No, you don't. You are able to do everything with the free student versions of the software that you're going to be using in the third course, in the design and wireframing course. So everything can be completed using a free student version. Do we get help getting a job? That's a good question. We don't have, we have career services, yes, but we don't have like formal co-op or anything, right? So yes, we do. We will help you get a job. Our career services is it's a pretty solid program, and all students get access to it. So yes, it's included in your program fee. I will be going on a pre-booked vacation and will miss Saturday and Sunday. What are my options? Okay, so that's something that you can speak to one of our continuing studies advisors about. So if you could call Mike at continue, or email him, sorry, at continue@yorku.ca, we can talk about your personal situation there. Is a web or graphic design background important? Now, I'm going to let Rahim take this question, but I have to tell you that in the cohort that started in January, we had like a very big group of students that had absolutely no background whatsoever. And they're doing well in the program so far. So, but Rahim, maybe you can comment.
Yeah, it varies. I mean, if you have a background, great. If you don't, it's fine. There's other avenues in terms of the UX world you can go down in terms of like UX research, prototyping, stuff like that. So it's not a necessity, but it does help. And going back to the question about do we help find jobs? So in terms of my course, right? So you're working with a real client. Clients have hired students in the past, a handful of times. But you're also working on your design portfolio, right? So what a design portfolio is it's basically created for you to showcase your work, because when you apply for UX design jobs, when I'm interviewing people, the first thing you look at is their design portfolio to see if they have the chops. So it's on you to make sure your portfolio is up to par. And that's basically how you find a job. It's important to put yourself out there, use Twitter, social media, stuff like that to showcase your work, right? Because that's how 99% of the time you'll get noticed. If people see your work online and they're like, oh, this person's, their work looks pretty good, I'll hire them. And it happens all the time. So it's just a matter of, how, like I said, motivated you are and how much you want to put yourself out there to make it in this industry. Yeah, and to go back to that first question, so I'm just looking through the spreadsheet of clients. So we've had people, we had a client called Rehab to Go, which was a physiotherapy client. We've had a medical center. We've had a Black youth organization. We've had a really diverse group of various different clients. We had a physician that works at Sick Kids in the ER. We've had a lot of unique clients, a company that focuses on co-living with seniors. So there's been a wide range of diverse clients that we've dealt with in this program.
Okay. Do we get help making our design portfolio website, and how do we advertise ourselves?
Great question. Do you get help? Yeah, I provide feedback for the websites for sure. What was that second part? Do we get help advertising?
Yeah, do we, about like, I guess, promoting ourselves, promoting themselves?
I'm not sure what that means. Does that mean like, so what
I guess, yeah, I would think about like how to advertise yourself. It's really about, creating your own brand. I think that's what the person is asking. And you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's using LinkedIn. It's using, building a community and a network, right? So that's vital when it comes to the design world. In the last decade, I'll be candid, every single job I've found or had was through LinkedIn. So it's really important to put yourself on LinkedIn to share what you're up to, because you'll be surprised of the feedback that you'll get from people, right? Because if no one knows what you're working on, then that's a lost opportunity, right? But if you share what you're working on, you'll never know what that can turn into. So it's basically planting seeds from day one and then hoping it turns into a tree.
Okay. All right. I think that we can wrap up. If you have any further questions, please contact our continuing studies advisor, Mike, at continue@yorku.ca. And I really want to thank you for taking the time today to be here with us. And Rahim, thank you so much for your participation today. It was awesome. Thank you.
No worries. If you guys have any questions, feel free to find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Have a good day, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.